It's time for the movie raid, behind the scenes with John Carpenters Halloween with actress and model Sandy Johnson that played as Judith Myers. Hello.
Hello there.
Now, you have been in one of the most cult classic, if not the only Judith Myers from this film. I mean, how were you approached with this role per se? Because for the most part, you were a modeler. You were doing a lot of modeling and easing into film at that time. What was the motivation that led you to that role, like help create the image for the character?
Well, I actually was interviewed because I was with the Playboy agency. I said, well, obviously they wanted someone who was willing to be nude, but they also wanted, to have the swing from fun and lively downstairs to a much more gruesome, dark thing upstairs. So we talked about those things. And I think that the house itself really helped me with the character because it was a really old house. It had creaky stairs. It was dark up there. So unlike a set, it was kind of really scary as it was. So I think that really helped with the character.
How many girls were actually up for that role? Was that just pretty much a one and done, or did you have to get a couple callbacks and whatnot with that?
No, I got it right off the bat. I don't know. There were a few other ladies there, when I was there, but I don't know how long they've been interviewing for.
Now, did John Carpenter himself actually start discussing with this, or did the casting, the person was casting, did they discuss you like the kind of script that what kind it was or anything like that? I mean, how did you initially thought about this for this particular type of film?
Well, they're real quiet about the contents of a film, so they don't really discuss much. They didn't really give me any more information than that I would be murdered by a younger brother in my bedroom, and that before that I would be downstairs kind of making out with my boyfriend. So that's kind of all they really told me. I didn't really know the full story until I went to the premiere, and then I found out that Michael grew up and became a serial killer.
Did you have any kind of discussions with John in general, per se, before even filming? Because you saw the house, was there any kind of thing? Did you just look at the house and then you just instantly felt that? But in part, was some kind of motivation from John himself? I mean, were there ever any kind of talks for anything even before that?
Well, he and Deborah Hill were both there, and they were giving a lot of coaching to both of us as far as, they feel they wanted downstairs. They wanted it lighthearted, nothing dark about it, and fun all the way upstairs. And then they wanted it to immediately go dark. That's pretty much what I kept in mind, trying downstairs not to think at all about upstairs, and then once I was upstairs to just be consumed with the, a knife coming at me and surprised that my little brother's there and, those sorts of things.
Now, was that also with the child being there? I mean, who was actually holding that knife? I mean, was that pretty much on cue on everything? Because this was 1978 or so, and a lot of times it's pretty much right there on the spot. Was anybody else replacing that moment for you?
No, Deborah Hill was the one holding the knife because Will Sandin was, little and very young. He was not really allowed inside the set area or inside the house. We certainly didn't want to scar him for life.
Did you have any talks with him as well, or was this pretty much don't see, don't tell until it happens on the spot?
Right, yeah, I did not have any conversations with him.
And initially after you saw your shot, like, what was your thought process? Did you feel like that was pretty good, or did you feel like let's talk about the downstairs moments, like, did you feel that was a little bit too cut short? I mean, did you feel like there should have been a little bit more, rough housing in a way? Or did you feel like, okay, John has to go to this, and then upstairs?
Well, movies are always trying to make things succinct. So I think they just wanted to get right at the beginning that it was Halloween night. Everybody was out on the streets trick-or-treating. and then the creepy thing of him looking in the window, and then so we go from creepy and then to lighthearted again, where we're making out, and then upstairs. So I think he probably had enough time to kind of get that feeling across.
Were there ever any kind of drafts to your script per se, or once again with the script itself was exactly what you read, or whichever you were allowed to see on the original scenes? Were there anything different that really didn't make it into the film?
No, I don't remember anything being taken out. It was pretty much because we rehearsed it a few times. It was a complicated shot because of the new camera system and all, so I think everybody was pretty well rehearsed on what needed to be done and where everybody needed to be.
And you mentioned about the camera system. Can you describe a little bit how that was set up for you for the downstairs moment and then the upstairs? Let's talk about the downstairs scene. How many the cameras set up? I mean, how was that? Was that kind of like a tight space for you? Can you describe like how they set the cameras up and how many people was actually around you doing this?
There were probably 4 people that I could see, and of course it was the Panaglide, so it was different than anything before because it was moving and very smoothly and not just a small scene and cut or any of that. So it was mostly everyone was kind of concerned with staying out of the camera, keeping things out of the camera that didn't need to be seen because it was a small house, built a long time ago. So it was harder than a sound stage where you've got plenty of room for everybody to be. But here, tight quarters, so you had to be very careful not to get extra people, in the shot. So I think that was one of the main concerns with the camera, was just keep it moving and make sure nothing's being seen that shouldn't be seen.
Was there just that one main camera? Like, was John also operating that? Like, were you surrounded like multiple shot as far as the angles go?
I just remember the one camera, and it had a couple people operating it, and then there were, sound people and stuff in different locations.
As far as the upstairs scene, now this is one of the most crucial and in some cases the most important scene, obviously, and even though it's brief, but how was the setup for that? Was there a lot of people in there too? Was it, or did the number of people actually got even less, because that looks like an even more closed space than even for yourself?
There were not many people up there. I remember, the cameraman, and then Deborah Hill was down low with the knife, and there was someone, with the mic above all of that, and I don't think there was anybody else in the room.
How much time did Deborah work with you? And she's also one of the other half of this whole production. Like, did you have any discussions like right there on the spot as well? Was that pretty much like, here's the knife, this is what I'm going to direct you to,
No, they both spent a lot of time with me, especially upstairs, because I did have to fall. I had to get the blood package, to open, and obviously they didn't want me to get hurt falling off of a stool, so we practiced that quite a bit just to make sure I had a safe fall and that everything, worked well. And then there was some blood that they were splashing on me in addition, to what I had in my hands. So it was still minimal amount of people though.
For reaction purposes, like, did you have to, constantly think about that as well as moving at the same time, or was there a lot of thought process just for that? Because there's a lot of frantic, hectic. You got to be scared, you got to be terrified, all in this very brief moment, and it goes very fast, but it does pay off. But like, what was the thought process of having to basically maneuver yourself, acting as if Michael's coming at you, and you're like, and all that?
Well, I had practiced the fall so many times that was kind of, second nature by that point. We had done it until everybody was happy with that. The emotion and all that itself, like I said before, was really helped by the situation because the stairs were creaking. I could hear somebody coming. It was dark in there, but I knew I was about to be murdered. So it had its own built-in creepiness about it that helped me be scared.
How long did it actually take you to do a combined total? How many did you think that would have taken? The downstairs and then the upstairs. I would imagine various takes, or was this a pretty quick shoot for you for the last moment for you?
Well, we were there all day, and they said we had 2 official takes, but of course we practiced a good part of the day doing different things, different angles, correcting where someone was in the camera, all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of technical stuff. Their biggest worry was things being in there. In other words, they would start to shoot and they would have to stop because the boom was in there, or they could see the edge of somebody's face, or there was a shadow. So it was mostly that sort of thing that was a problem, because once again, it wasn't a big open space. It was very small space, so you're going to get shadows, you're going to get reflections, you're going to have people making noise that shouldn't be. So it was mostly just those types of things.
They keep, as far as the audio wise, was that also problematic when it came to process? Did you actually have to wait and then have to redo the scene, or what was the process of that when they were trying to do the audio? Did they do the audio much later after that scene, after the kill scene?
No, I believe they were doing them both at the same time. And with the camera, of course, they could review and see what they had. They're watching what they're getting as they went. So they knew kind of on the spot that they did or didn't have it right at each section of the way upstairs.
Did you yourself got a chance to actually see your scene, or even saw some of the movie leading up to your scene? Like, was that also a little bit of okay, this is what I think I need to do,
No, I did not get to see it. In fact, I didn't ever see my full scene without the mask in front of the camera and all of that until I think about a year and a half ago. I was doing a film in Florida, and I was at a tattoo parlor doing a signing, and the guy that actually owns that footage, he can't sell it or use it, but he owns it. So he actually showed us, everybody had to put their cameras away and everything, but he actually showed me my scene, the full scene, the whole room and everything. So it was absolutely amazing to see that. I'd never seen that before. So I saw the full shot without the mask in front of the camera and all that. So that was pretty cool.
Now, as far as the makeup, it seems like it was very minimal for this type of scene. Like, the blood was just like you can almost barely see it, but like there is blood there. But it reminds me a lot like Psycho when getting stabbed in the shower scene. Was it pretty much like that? Or, did you hardly have to use any kind of makeup or anything for that moment?
Makeup as far as the blood, or makeup on my face?
Makeup on the face and the blood.
Okay. On my face, I was always a minimalist. I've never worn a lot of makeup. So there was no more makeup than probably I would normally wear, maybe a little bit more just because of the cameras and stuff. As far as there was blood pellets on the inside of my hands. So when I slammed my hands against my chest, the blood came out of, several pellets. And then they were also kind of splattering blood at me out of a container. But pretty much like Carpenter, he's more about psychological than blood and gore. So it was enough to get the fact that I was dead and had been stabbed, but not so much that it just became a gore scene.
You were Playmate of the Month, and you were quite successful with your modeling, but having to be on film and having a partial nude scene was a little bit of a different experience in comparison to be on a page. I mean, how did that really work out with you? Did you ever object a little bit, or were you a little self-conscious a little bit because this is going to be on film, everyone's going to see just a little bit of it?
No, it really didn't bother me. I actually lived for a while on a nude beach. There were a number of places in California where you could go camp along the river and stuff, and nudity was allowed. So I was kind of used to that, being around people. So it really didn't bother me.
As far as before filming your scenes, I mean, how many locations did you basically have to visit, like as far as staying wise? Did you stay by the house? Did you actually get to stick around like in the house a little bit, or did you have to go, let's say, stay at a hotel or something until they called you and whatnot? Like, can you just describe, like, as far as the traveling and all that leading up to go on set?
Well, of course, I lived in California, so it wasn't a long drive. So they just told me to be there. It was pretty early in the morning. There was like a dressing room, little trailer outside to get cleaned up in between the shots with the blood and all of that. other than getting dressed and eating and stuff, most of the time I was in the house and in the living room for the most part, going through things, both upstairs and downstairs.
As far as character goes, was this something like you kind of don't want to see it at first, like if it was like in the day or something, you really want to just be there in the moment, and then lights, camera, action, and then boom, there it is.
No, I did want to. I mean, I was there the same day, not before anything. They didn't tell me where to go until it was time. But I think it was better in my case to know the house, because that was supposed to be my home and that was supposed to be my room. So being in those rooms for a while and kind of feeling a part, that's my dresser, my chair. So I think it was important that I spent some time in the house.
I'm reading, as far as the script goes, like obviously Michael Myers being your younger brother, did you ever had any kind of idea, like maybe it was just like a normal child, like as far as what kind of a kid he is, or did you think this was something like, oh, this is probably the kid from like The Omen or something, and then this is how you're going to get psyched up? It's like, okay, this is going to happen.
No, I tried to keep it as though he were just a normal kid, because I did need to be very surprised when he, shows up in my bedroom. If I had thought there was something weird about him, I might not have been as shocked, and I might also have kept my door locked, which I did not.
And given that vibe, as far as your character and Michael and his parents and everything, we do get that vibe. It's a very normal family. It's the traditional teenager stuff. Like at that time, that was the kind of mentality that you had to basically force to be in at that time. Would become, because you had the downstairs, she's fooling around, and then do the usual upstairs, everything's all quiet, and then bam. Was that a little bit different for you as well in the progression of this?
You mean as far as the speed of it, or?
As far as the speed of it.
Yeah. Well, we all know it's a pretty famous timeline. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's all very quick. And as far as what was going on at that time in real life, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, the kids trick-or-treated. Usually the siblings took them out. Sisters were probably short with the kids. It's kind of a hassle, I guess, having to spend the night taking the kids up and down the street. So yeah, I was that impatient teenager that, really didn't want to have to do that. Wanted to just be spending time with my boyfriend and having fun instead.
Did you ever talk to any of the cast members prior? I mean, now, granted, like, chances are probably nobody actually knew anybody as far as introductions per se, or was this pretty much you showed up, you did your thing, and then you just basically went home without any kind of real interaction with anybody?
Yeah, interaction during the day, yes, but nothing before that day and nothing after. Until I started to do conventions.
And you didn't have any kind of interaction with Jamie Lee Curtis as far as any real, like, just even chit-chat or in between scenes or anything like that, or like offset or anything like that?
Well, she was there that day, and she helped me clean up some of the blood, because whoever was doing it was being kind of rough, and she stepped in and asked if I would like her to help, so she did help me get some of the blood off.
Did she help a little bit as far as any kind of direction, like, or a guidance to a degree? Because Jamie also, who is being very prominent as an actress at this time too, 1978, did anything change for that scene for you as well, or is that pretty much she just showed up there and then everything went by and then everybody went home?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was like one of her very first movies, if not her first. So she was not well known, other than, being a famous daughter. But as far as her own career, she really wasn't well known yet. So she wasn't probably secure enough in her role to really be advising other people yet.
This character, obviously this film succeeded afterwards. I mean, how did you see this character point of view?
Well, it was different for me for sure. I had only done comedies, so this one was definitely not a comedy. The light-hearted part downstairs was familiar to me. The upstairs was the challenge, of course, because I had never really played a serious role before, and certainly not one where I died. So I would say that was a growth for me, to get beyond the humor and the silliness and have something serious, going on in the character.
And was this one of those opportunities for you for this film? Now, horror is becoming, at this point, very, very interesting. And then you have a film called Halloween. And then you yourself have had some prior experience to a degree. But, like, did you feel that when it comes to the money aspect of things was very little at that time? Or was this something that eventually helped you out in the long run later on after the, either years after the movie was done?
The pay was very, very low. I think it was like maybe $100. And to this day, when I get checks for the first Halloween, it's like $3.10. So it's not much. I do much better on H2018.
As far as the involvement goes, like the character of Laurie Strode, now everybody knows the whole saga of Halloween. Everybody knows about Laurie Strode, but do you feel that your death scene that was so important enough that it actually helped Laurie become, in part, even a stronger character, even on her behalf, based on this pinnacle moment for you?
Well, I think that probably everybody in the film, I mean, everybody's so good in it that probably everything obviously helped towards her success as an actress and to get other films and things. I do feel that my scene is very iconic, though, because it is the first, obviously it's the very opening scene of the very first Halloween, but also it's it's his first kill and the only kill by the young Michael Myers. So in and of itself, I would call it an iconic part of the franchise, and certainly because that first film was so successful, it led to her being, rebooked for many of the subsequent Halloweens.
If you were to look back at this, even now, if you haven't already, as far as your scenes go, like, would you have done something a little bit different for this? I mean, would you have actually have involvement with your character and Laurie Strode within this first film, or did you feel like this was pretty well made for that scene for what it was at that time? And then, here we go. Here's, X amount of sequels later, and now, it's a huge cult classic success.
Well, I think it might have been nice if there had been just a little bit of backstory between Michael and I, more brother-sister stuff earlier, and so that whenever he does come in to kill me, it's really a surprise, but we haven't seen anything in their relationship, that would lead to that, to make you think that might happen. So if it had just been a little bit more of interaction with Michael and I, maybe before the boyfriend came over or something, I think that might have been cool.
Were you a little surprised that this wasn't Michael kills basically everybody, like the parents come home, find you dead, and then he kills him and so forth? Would you find this was an actual definition of what is considered a different horror film for you, and how, and the outcome of it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Michael is a very different kind of killer, because at least in the John Carpenter ones, you don't know who he's going to kill. Some people he just walks right by, no big deal. Others you think he's going to kill them and then he doesn't. I mean, that was my greatest thing about Michael, is I love the way you just didn't know, what he was going to do. And unfortunately, the later films, I think they kind of lost that. But definitely the ones I think that John Carpenter directed, Michael was just blank-faced. You just didn't know when something was going to happen.
Would you say, had Judith Myers survived, or he didn't get killed, let's say that, would you say that between Laurie Strode and Judith, you think they should have lasted a little bit longer? Let's say the third sequel, or maybe a little bit later, then eventually Judith would have been, cut off at some point, or do you feel like this character was fine the way it was, and then this is what kicked off the whole thing? This is what made that mystery about Michael.
Yeah, I think it was good like it was. I think it put a shocker right into the very beginning, totally unexpected. I mean, it's a brand new franchise, so nobody knew, anything about it, no Michael Myers or anything that existed before. So to have such a shocking scene as the opening scene, I think is pretty interesting. Usually it takes a little longer before you get that. So I think that was one of the grabbers in the original Halloween, is it just goes almost from the credits right into that.
How about you share a couple memories that you can remember from the time that you worked over there, like anything, like any kind of embarrassing moments or anything that you thought were so pleasant that you never got a chance to really share to the world? Is there anything like with John Carpenter or anybody in general?
Well, I can say that I really enjoyed working with both John and Deborah, that they took a lot of time to stand in front of us and to explain what they wanted and act it out between the two of them. So they did a lot of visual representation instead of just barking orders or whatever. They were very patient, and they made it very clear kind of the feel they wanted, where they wanted us to be, how they wanted us to do different things. I mean, they allowed us to be ourselves and to do what we wanted as well, but they were just very clear as far as what they were looking for and by acting it out for us. So I really appreciated that.